Three, two, one. How you guys doing? Welcome back to Cage Radio. Today, we're just going to go over a little bit of the news that's in the headlines right now. We're going to talk a little bit about things that are going on in MMA in general, and we're going to be discussing what I think is going to be happening in the next couple of UFCs, namely, what's going to be happening at UFC 300. I am a little disappointed in some of the rumors that I've heard because, frankly, I don't really want to see Israel Adesanya versus Alex Pereira 3 already. I think Izzy needs to take a back seat, but for now, we're just going to let that one lie. And let's talk about what's going on. First things first, George St. Pierre has shut down some rumors that he is going to be fighting soon. He has, quote, said that he's not going to be fighting past the age of 40. And that is essentially that. He's old now. He has a lot of injuries. He's made his mark on the sport. He has nothing to prove. I personally agree. He has really nowhere else to go. And what's he risking now? There's a whole new breed of guys out there who are very, very, very good. Maybe not quite as good as him. You know, George was very, very rare. And there's not a lot of people like him. He was not a wrestler. He was never a wrestler. It was never his thing. But he became one of the greatest wrestlers and ever to grease the cage. And you know, I don't think he necessarily has the same level of athleticism now that he's older. That tends to be something that leaves people pretty quickly as they get on in age. And even though I do think that he is a once in a generation talent, I think that his time has come. I mean, the guy has, like, really, what is he doing it for at this point if he does it at all? I mean, he's got a career in voiceover work. He does a lot of the fight analysis stuff for the team, and he does a lot of the analysis for the French Canadian stuff or French stuff. I don't know. I don't watch it because I'm not French, but I know that he does a lot of commentary. So what does he really have to prove at this point? He has a job, he has a career, he's been rich for decades now. He's a legend, he has nothing to prove. What's he gonna do? Get back in and maybe lose a couple more? Yeah. So I'm perfectly happy with that being laid to rest. I don't want to see George St. Pierre come back. Frankly, the latter half of his career was just wrestle humping people anyway, and even though he was good at getting the W, he wasn't really fun to watch in the later years. So I'm perfectly happy with that, personally. Secondly, Michael Venom Page. It looks like he might be signing with the PFL, and I frankly agree with that. If he does that, and we're going to talk a little bit more about Michael Venom Page later on, but he might be signing up with the PFL over the UFC, and I totally agree with that. Even though the UFC has better fights, Michael Venom Page is 36 years old. What does he have to gain, really? Not a lot. Nothing. So that's not really like he's gonna be facing some really, really hungry dudes with like grappling pedigrees and stuff like that. Like, at this age, you've already been a champion in Bellator. You've kind of like used up some of your best years over there. You could have been in the UFC, but probably not made as near as much money. So I think that staying with the PFL, where you can guarantee that you have more victories and less injuries and better contracts, much smarter. So yeah, I'm gonna hand it to him. Like, Michael Venom Page. In fact, I'm all for every single UFC fighter leaving the UFC and joining PFL because, frankly, I know that's where the money can go. They may not have as good leadership, they may not have as good promotional qualities, but my God, their contracts are great. What else we got to talk about? Looks like Bilal Muhammad is set up as a backup fighter for UFC 296. Um, it looks like if let's see here. If for any reason Colby Covington or Leon Edwards can't fight, he'll be stepping in. So if something happens between now and then, and it seems unlikely because like this is kind of around the time where um, fighters sort of slow down, sort of get ready to make weight. You know, they're already on their way down to that weight. You know, because like very few fighters are really fighting at the weight that they walk around at. A lot of people think that. I was hearing guys talking about this today. Bilal Muhammad has been sidelined, jumped over. He hasn't fought in a while, but it doesn't mean that he doesn't deserve a shot. The guy has had some bangers, and he certainly deserves to be in there. But I understand why UFC may not be wanting to throw it at him. I mean, he beat Gilbert Burns at UFC 288, but that was like 8 UFCs ago. Long time. And Bilal doesn't have nearly the amount of recognition that Colby does. Like, some of the people they need to understand, like, there are really great fighters out there, but the UFC is a business, and it's about making money. If Bilal doesn't have a big name, he has about as much chance of getting a big fight as I do. So, uh, but this could be a chance if one of them gets injured. Let's say one of them trips over a cord or something like that, some freak accident, and he'll be sliding right in there. And I think he deserves it. Oh, my daughter's laughing in the background. She's so cute. Let's move right along. What else we got going on here? Oh, here we go. Here we go. This one I hadn't heard anything about actually until just recently. But Henry Cejudo is going to face Merab Dvalishvili on February 18th or 17th. My bad. UFC 298. I hadn't heard about this. So this is all news to me. I'm always in like wondering what Henry Cejudo's status is. You know, the dude he retires, he comes out, he does a bunch of talking positions. He's in one weight class, then he's in another. He's kind of cringy. He's kind of crazy. I don't know if I love him very much. Oh, you guys hear the train going by in the background. It scared me. I don't know how much I like Henry Cejudo. I do acknowledge that he's an amazing athlete. He's a great fighter. And he's been around for a while. But it looks like he's going to be mixing it up on February 17th. And you know, I'm happy. I'm happy to see that he's still in there. Sometimes I feel like the generation of fighters from just before the one that's currently out there, they're kind of I get sad to see them go. I get sad to see them like sort of fade into twilight because we get attached to these guys. Like a good example of that is Mighty Mouse. Mighty Mouse isn't in the UFC anymore, and he is still fighting, but he's in one, which has been absorbed by I guess Bellator. They're now like they're one now. It's not, excuse the turn of phrase, but now that he's over there in that field with those fighters, somehow it feels like he's gone. I mean, obviously, I can always just look him up and check him out. He's been very, very active, but like, he's no longer in the UFC. and I'm sure that's just a mind frame thing. It's something that I need to deal with in my own head. Because, like, obviously there are more fights happening out there than just in the UFC. But the UFC is such an institution. It's like PG&E. There are other energy companies out there where the PG&E is literally like synonymous with the term. In the same way that Michael Venom Page choosing to fight in the PFL for money is advantageous to him, but robs us of the promotional aspects of him having like really, really great fights. And I'm not saying that one isn't going to give him great fights for Demetrius Johnson, because like those kinds of Asian run championships, they tend to specialize in the smaller fighters because they're, not to sound geneticist, but they're smaller overall. They have more Asian guys, and the Asian guys are smaller, which means that the market for those weight class guys is higher. But still, to me, like, because it's not appearing on the UFC stuff, and the UFC pumps out so much promotional stuff, I see it all over the place. I see it everywhere. It's just I'm not getting as much Demetrius Johnson these days, and I mean, back when he was UFC, I never really got to see very much of him to begin with because, like, as Dana White likes to point out, he's one of the least promoted dudes of all time. Anyway, I feel like I'm getting off track here. Anyway, Henry Cejudo, he's back. He's fighting February 17th, Honda Sever, UFC 298. Great, lovely, wonderful. Can't wait. Super excited. Okay, now I have something to share with you guys that is not going to be appearing on any kind of news list that I have found recently. This is something that just came out today. Islam Makhachev has announced that he's interested in fighting Justin Gaethje. Now, some of you guys don't know this, but Justin Gaethje is literally my favorite fighter. I love that dude. That guy's never been in a boring fight. Ever, not once. Every fight he's in is a banger from top to bottom, from start to finish, from end to beginning. It is the best. I love watching Justin Gaethje. His knockout power for the weight class, his ridiculous leg kicks, which he says that he never really trains and are just all natural, which blows my mind. His stand-up anti-wrestling pedigree. He is just one of the most interesting to watch fighters that has ever walked the face of the earth. His attitude, his good guy, like, there's like a part of him that's, I really wish I was more like him. So to be quite frank, the man is just so like, what is a good way to say it? I don't know how to put my. He's like a hard ass with a heart of gold. You know what I mean? He's just a nice guy who could kill everyone you know, no problem. he's, man, there is really no one like him. He's like the new boogeyman of the 155 division, as far as I'm concerned. Like, he stole, like, as soon as he beat up Tony Ferguson, as soon as he whooped him good, he like took the boogeyman sign right off of his neck, put it on his neck, and was just like, I'm the new boogeyman. And I'm with it. Even Khabib said he's the scariest dude. He's the scariest man to face. He has the hardest punches. He's crazy. He's crazy in there. It kind of blows my mind that he's never gotten gold because he's so good. And I think part of that, me and my friend Justin were having a conversation today about how we think that Justin Gaethje, his thing that holds him back is that he's got a lot of pride, and he stubbornly does not want to grapple with people, even when it's in his best interest, which is crazy to think. But like, there's been times when he's getting teed up before by someone who has a better grappling plan than him. Like when he was facing Dustin Poirier, he was actually winning most of the fight in the first fight. And then they fight twice. I can't remember. But eventually Dustin started teeing him up, and it would have behooved him to take the fight to the ground so he could recover, but he refused to do so. He just kept on trying to bang him at it, and it cost him the fight. That's okay. I appreciate that attitude. He's not always going to be the best He's not always the winner, but he always puts on a good show. And it's that attitude that puts him in those right spots. Now, Islam Makhachev has proved himself to be uh, pretty fucking good. He's the champ right now. You don't get to that place in the 155 division without being really, really, really ahead of the curve. 155 division is so stacked. It is almost impossible to make it up there. But this guy's done it. In a sea of hard asses, he's proven himself to be the hardest. He beat Volk. He beat Charles. Now he's going after Justin. That's like climbing into the swamp in the middle of the darkness trying to wrestle an alligator out of its hole. Like, that's crazy. But he's going for it. Islam has amazing, well-rounded skills. He's very, very good at striking. He didn't really want to go to the ground with Charles Oliveira. And not surprising. Charles Oliveira is one of the slickest dudes on the ground ever. So, I don't know if he's going to have necessarily what it takes to beat Justin on the feet. Justin is very, very difficult to deal with on the feet. Knockout artists at 155, very few of those exist. So, I don't know why he's targeting Justin. It seems like to me to be a bad matchup, but hats off to him, man. That seems like a great fight matchup. And you know what? If they decide to give that to him, it would be fun to watch. Like, I would say that'd be a cool UFC 300 match. I don't know if it's necessarily headline material, but 155 is a super hot division, so maybe it is. If they were to announce that, I would definitely watch it. I don't know if it's on the same level that Dana White was talking about when he was saying that there's something big in the works. Okay, let's talk about that. Let's talk about what's going on at UFC 300. Every time they have one of these big anniversary style shows, every time there's like UFC 100, big card, UFC 200, big card. Now we have UFC 300. It's destined to be a huge card. It's going to be something crazy. Something undeniably insane. What that is, I don't know. I can't be for sure. But there are a few things that I would like to see, and there's a few things that I would not like to see. I am not really interested in the Conor McGregor show. Not really. I liked him back in the day when he was still in his prime, when he was still building himself up, when he was still resting on the laurels of having like that nice straight left and having those good kickboxing skills and just starching people with high accuracy and a good game plan. Those are the days that I miss. Nowadays, Conor McGregor can break his foot, do dishonest things, slap people around in bars, be a jerk, and it does nothing to hurt his brand, it seems. He just continues to soldier on. His best days are behind him. The last cool thing I feel like I ever saw him do was knock out Donald Cerrone with his shoulder. That, I will always say, is one of the craziest, most interesting knockouts I've ever seen in my entire life. Hats on to him for that. But I'm not particularly interested in just watching the Conor McGregor show for the rest of my life. That's not what I'm interested in. I do appreciate the sport in two ways. One, I like the storyline, right? I like to see the story of these fighters unfold, and their journeys are important to me. Okay, that's what makes me interested in the fighters in the first place. Any two stick figures can get together and bang it out, and it's interesting. But what gives them flavor and character is knowing what they're about. And me having already seen what Conor McGregor's about, he's already made it. He's already made it. There's nothing else for him to gain. He's the richest MMA fighter who's ever done it. There's like he can retire now and be richer than every UFC champion combined almost. The man has transcended the sport. I'm not interested in that. To some degree, I'd like to see someone on the come up knock him off his perch, but then I'm not interested in that either because I already know that Conor McGregor is beyond his prime. He's almost an easy win. They're putting him up against Michael Chandler. I don't think Michael Chandler is particularly good at the sport, but he is incredibly energetic. I kind of look at him the same way I look at Tony Ferguson. Not really great, but there is something special about the guy that makes him dangerous. I think Chandler's gonna probably mess McGregor up unless McGregor can get a flash knockout of some sort, or really just piece him together with some super secret striking training. I just don't see that McGregor has that in his back pocket. Okay, all of this though, this conversation about McGregor versus Chandler, not interesting to me. Probably I should not have even spent this amount of time talking about it. What I have heard is that they're going to bring back Pereira and Izzy for yet a fourth fight. It's not enough that they already had their fight in kickboxing. Okay, it's not enough that they already faced each other twice in the last 3 years. It's not enough. It's possible that we're going to see them again, and I don't frankly want to see it. I don't want to see Israel Adesanya, a guy who jerks off his dog and has some of the cringiest shit talk in the entire world. I'm not a fan of Israel Adesanya. Nope, I'm not. I think he's cringe to the max. I think he's weird. I don't really like his fighting style. One of my favorite days ever was watching Sean Strickland beat him up. I don't particularly think that Sean Strickland has some of the nicest things to say ever. But I can tell you that I like watching people that I detest getting the crap beaten out of them and getting embarrassed and humbled. And this is exactly what happened when Sean Strickland fought him back, what was it, UFC 292 or something like that? I don't know. Whenever the hell that happened. That was great. One of my favorite moments. Truly. Now, what I would like to see is Michael Venom Page take a 1-fight contract against Israel Adesanya. That would be cool. Because I think MVP could beat him. I don't think that MVP should stick around for too long. I think that he could do this for just one legacy fight. He is a free agent. He would be a huge draw, especially for the hardcore guys. My only reservation here is that he's not worth anything big on money in terms of draw. Like, what does the casual fan know about this guy? Like, next to nothing. Pardon me, I'm going to adjust my microphone for a moment. Yeah. What is MVP really worth to the casual observer? Not much. Not much at all. I don't think that the average person who would order a pay-per-view has any interest in watching those two fight. Now, if you're listening to this, you probably are interested maybe in seeing MVP fight Israel. I think we could all agree that would be a freaking banger of a fight. Maybe not even a banger is the wrong way to say it. More like watching a mongoose fight a cobra. You know what I mean? I really think those two would be a great stylistic matchup for each other because they're very similar to each other. Both kickboxers. One's a karate fighter. I think the other one's more of a combat striker, for the lack of a better term. But yeah, I uh, I think that would be a great fight, and frankly, one of the only ones that I'd be really interested in seeing. Fancy editing. Justin Gaethje versus Islam Makhachev. That would be a fantastic fight. That'd be great to put in there. I would love to see that. Other fights that I think would be really nice to see. Um, I I would like to see Pereira versus Roundtree. I think that fight would be amazing. Now, I'm not a huge Pereira fan. It's funny. I'm not a big fan of Israel Adesanya or Pereira. I think they're both. I think one's cringy and the other one's boring. I'm not really particularly interested in Pereira as a fighter. I think he's boring to watch. Yes, his striking is really crisp and really good. But do I care to watch him? Not really. Not personally. Not my thing. On the bright side, Pereira's not cringy. But I do think that Roundtree is interesting to watch. And while I don't think that Roundtree has, like, he obviously doesn't have the best record. You know, he has been defeated a handful of times. God, when he's doing good, it looks like you're watching a pimp collect his money from a John that ain't paid up. my nickname for Roundtree is "Where the fuck's my money, Roundtree?" Because watching that man slap the dog crap out of people it's just like sugar on my soul. I'll take 2 of those, please. 3 of those if you can afford it. I can't get enough of watching that man beat people up. I think it is the funniest thing. I like I'm putting him just below Justin Gaethje in terms of fun to watch. God. Yes, please. More of that. There's a couple more outliers that I hope we don't see. I really hope they don't cut a deal with Jake Paul to fight anyone. Unless, this is the only reason that I would be interested in seeing it, if it was Jake Paul versus Sean Strickland. Paul versus Strickland, I'll buy that UFC. I'll buy it. I'll buy it. And not only is it going to be a fun fight to watch, but my God, the press tour. The press tour would be nuts. Watching those two just say some of the most ridiculous stuff to each other on the microphones. The two very, very, very different people. Essentially, it would be kind of like Israel Adesanya, because Israel Adesanya in some ways is a lot like Jake Paul. Jake Paul is like the avatar of pop culture. Izzy was the pop culture fighter. You know, both these guys are sort of YouTube culture sensations, whereas Strickland is like anti-culture in a lot of ways. I would just love to see these two fight. I really would. You know, everyone wants to see the Paul brothers bang it up. And I don't have a lot of distaste towards Jake Paul. Like, I actually think he's put a lot of work in. You know, he has honed his craft. He has become a respectable pro level boxer. You can hate me on that one. You can disagree with me on that if you want to. You can tell me that he's far from it. But look, he beat up Tommy Fury. Tommy Fury is a pro boxer. He didn't win, but he didn't do terrible. He could have done a lot worse. He has put the work in. He has gotten good. He has all the money in the world to afford some of the best boxing trainers, and he was a at least college level athlete beforehand. You're telling me that someone who's at least serviceable can't become good? No. The only reason why I'm against this is because of what these kinds of spectacles do to the sport. This kind of like steals the legitimacy. It gets it closer to being pro wrestling, and I don't like that. I don't like it when those kinds of things happen in a sport that I love and that I respect. You know, in some ways, I don't even like that Dana White is the head of the UFC. I think Dana White does a lot to steal legitimacy from the sport. Guys like Scott Coker are much more legitimate. You know, like those kinds of dudes are much more like business quality. Dana is almost more of an attraction than he is a businessman. Like he's part of the fun because he's so like ridiculous. But he's in charge, and for now, that's what we got to deal with. Another thing I don't want to see is Deontay Wilder fight Tom Aspinall. One, because Deontay Wilder is not a real mixed martial artist. And if Tom gets in there with a game plan that involves wrestling and grappling first, it's going to be over very, very quickly, and it's going to be very, very disappointing. I've heard that this is on the grapevine. I've heard Deontay Wilder is, like, I'm no joke. I've heard Deontay Wilder's name dropped more than a few times when talking about UFC 300. Frankly, I don't think he's a big enough draw. I think it would be just about as bad as watching, what's his face that fought Randy Couture. Is it even worth bringing up? I think it would just be just as bad as that. Because Tom Aspinall is not a bad grappler. The dude knows how to fight. He's a well-rounded mixed martial artist. He knows what he's doing. That would be bad for Deontay Wilder, and probably worse for the UFC in terms of respectability. I don't think he should do that. I don't think that should be a thing. Right? I really think that they should go with MVP. And if they don't go with MVP, Islam Makhachev versus Justin Gaethje, that would be really cool. Is that at the level that we want it to be? I don't know. They might just go with Alex Pereira versus Israel Adesanya though, just to like throw it up there and have the trilogy capped. I'm not excited about it, but it seems like it's pretty likely, even though Izzy said that he wasn't going to do that. What else is there? Bringing back Brock Lesnar? Oh, fuck me. No, I hope not. Nobody wants to see that except the fucking wrestling heads who believe that Brock Lesnar is the second coming of God. Don't know about his, like, what is it? He has some sort of intestinal issue. Can't remember what it's called. I'm not really particularly interested in watching that either. And I'm trying to like rack my brain thinking about who could they bring in. Hopefully it has nothing to do with the Diaz brothers. Those guys are old as hell. Probably nothing to do with Jorge Masvidal. He's already over the hill. Like who else? Who else could they fish up? Like who? Who can they drag out of the ocean of fighters that would be legitimately interesting? Conor McGregor's already spoken for. We already know he's gonna be fighting Michael Chandler. That's almost a definite. I don't know. When Dana says that he has some like a super fight up his sleeve, it's usually something that's gonna make a lot of money. And man, the more I think about it, the more I'm just like, I'm hoping to God it has nothing to do with the Paul brothers. For God's sakes, it might. It really might. They've already said that they were interested in going in. And you know, it would be even worse if it was the Paul brothers versus the Diaz brothers. That would just. And can you imagine if the Diaz brothers lost both of those? Like that would be crazy if they got both Diaz brothers and they both lost. Ugh, that'd be like the worst day in the history of MMA. That would be a travesty. I would slip my mixed martial arts wrists. I would abandon the sport. No, I wouldn't. I would stick with it because I'm a drug addict just like the rest of you. All I can do is hope. All I can do is hope. Well, yeah, I think that's all that I have for you guys today. Uh, yeah, yeah. I can't think of too much else I want to say today about this particular subject. Let me know how you guys feel, or whatever. Whatever. I don't want to be one of those assholes sitting there being like, comment, subscribe. It helps my metrics. I mean, yeah, that stuff does help, but like, what a shill am I? What kind of fucking bastard am I to start doing that stuff? Like, comment, subscribe. uh, all right. Have a good night. This is Cage Radio, and this has been Thor. Goodbye.